Yo guys, what's going on? I'm Keegan. If you enjoyed this review, be sure to hit the subscribe button and opinions go down in the comment section. Korn, The Nothing. Korn, American nu metal pioneers led by lead singer Jonathan Davis. Being around since 1993, Korn have released 13 studio albums, along with a few side projects and solo albums. This album comes at an extremely negative time in Davis's life, after losing his mother and his ex-wife last year. So with this new album, we're going to see that grief and turmoil translated into song. And while this album is not as heavy as 2016's The Serenity of Suffering, it's definitely up there and probably ranks in the top half of the band's discography for me. I'll start this review off with the singles. You'll Never Find Me, probably one of my favorite songs here, opens up with this traditional screeching riff reminiscent of older Korn. Davis's vocals are really what sells the song for me, where the verses have a sort of creepy horror movie doll playtime sort of sound, and the breakdown where Davis yells the song name frantically and maniacally. It's an extremely captivating song for me, and I was hooked on first listen. The second single, Cold, hits that fantastic sweet spot between heavy and catchy. The extremely deep and chunky guitar and Davis's fluctuating vocals just sell the song as one of the best songs here. This is sort of the part of the album where the lights dim and the horror movie actually begins. And then the first jump scare happens as soon as the initial drums just bash you in the face. The song is just mean and angry, even lyrically where the main line and the verses are "go away." And in all honesty, I love every second of it. The third and final single, Can You Hear Me, feels a little bit uninspired in the grander scheme of this album. Don't get me wrong, it's still a haunting, slow burn of a song, but when compared so far to the other singles, let alone some other songs on this album, it doesn't really have much of a signature to go off on. No frantic screams, no insane riffs or drumming or anything in that caliber. Although I do love Davis's vocals on the song. They're very eerie and almost desperate sounding. So yeah, it's a fine song, but it's just nothing special. Now for the rest of the songs. The End Begins, the opener, features Davis on those bagpipes that actually sound fantastic when paired with this alluring bass riff and haunting drums. The vocals are extremely faint, but also contribute to this tone, even having Davis sobbing at the end, which is actually really fitting for this whole album. This is a very dark record, and this opener really sets the stage for it. The Darkness is Revealing features one of, if not the most catchy choruses on this entire album. Also, the traditional squealing scratches are back yet again. Fieldy's got a fantastic bass line on this song. It's so heavy that it almost sounds like percussion. Lyrically, this song is about questioning your outlook on reality, especially considering how the darkness is revealing. There's just this irresistible groove coming from this song, one that I found absolutely enjoyable on first listen, and still thoroughly enjoy right now. Idiosyncrasy opens up with this engaging, gritty, and badass guitar riff. The song just has a lumbering, ominous presence as Davis sings about how God's laughing at him, which otherwise would be seen as just traditional emo and whiny, but this song makes it sound almost genuine and emotional. This is also one of the toughest bass lines I've heard in a long time, and Davis sounds like he's absolutely lost it. I can definitely see this being a fan favorite, as it's one of mine as well. The Seduction of Indulgence is an interlude with a similar feeling to songs like Daddy, and God did this song make me feel uncomfortable. Without getting too involved in the lyrics, it's just basically about molestation, and with this insane yet extremely confessional tone in the delivery. It is bizarre but weirdly appropriate for this album. Finally, Free has a lot of similarities to Can You Hear Me, except on a lot more basic level. First off, the instrumental just sounds pretty disposable. It doesn't really have its own flavor amongst the other songs, especially Ray Luzier's drums. They're just so bland this time around. While the pre-chorus is pretty catchy and Davis's growls in the breakdowns stand out, nothing else really does when it comes to vocals. So in all honesty, I probably won't keep this one around, and it may just be my least favorite of the core songs on here. Unlike The Ringmaster, which comes out flying out of the gate with these heavy, sectioned, and downright badass guitar riff. Easily the biggest standout moment from this song is the beatboxing on the bridge, and this overall is just so in your face. Not even to mention the verses, which just sound like a counseling session straight out of an asylum, even being as blunt and unhelpful as possible in that scenario, saying everything you feel just won't make it better. This one's great. I think I'll keep this one around. Gravity of Discomfort is the main contender for the catchiest song on this album. Behind the Darkness is Revealing. Despite it taking way too long to finally start, in my opinion, I love the scratching melody. And Davis's vocals are ominously playful and all over the place. Lyrically, it's just straight up a grief trip, where everything on his plate is crushing him and setting him up for premature death before it's even happened, and he knows it. Another song that I think I'll definitely keep around for sure. Harder brings things right back onto Heavy Street. The repeated growls of harder and harder and harder sound a little bit awkward and corny in my opinion, but aside from that, Davis is frantically singing about why his life keeps getting harder, why life must keep bringing on all these obstacles, and how your past will always haunt you along the way. And when accompanied with these brutal riffs and manic drumming, it's surprisingly a standout moment. This Loss is kind of like a mishmash of all the styles on this album, and it's also a fairly solid blend of catchy and heavy like Cold was. Davis's vocals almost have this warped, bubbly effect to them at times, which only adds to the ominous feeling of the song. The bridge of this is a send-off to his ex-wife, which is hauntingly beautiful, and then transitions into Davis growling about how he wants to take it back. While the song does move all over the place more so than anything else on this album, it's still not a bad song. And finally, the closer, Surrender to Failure, which really ties this album together with a very calming but also extremely melancholic vocal performance from Davis. He's letting his heart pour out on this song, and it's extremely difficult to not feel sympathy for him, especially when he starts to break down where he repeats how he's failed. It's a very tough listen, but a strangely fitting closer. Overall, for a band who's been around for 25 years, it's quite relieving to say that Korn are still thriving with wonderful records like this. I'm just hoping that this cathartic mix of songs can only paint better days for everyone associated with the band. Supposedly, Davis mentioned that the title of this album was meant to mean some balance between two evils living in harmony, and while I can't relate to it personally, the mix between catchy songwriting and wonderful performances seemed like a fitting balance to us fans of the music, and that's fine by me. I'm honestly feeling about an 8.5 out of 10 on this album. Well guys, hope you enjoyed that review. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.